Hi everybody, welcome. So I said in the last update video that I was getting some new internet installed, and depending on the quality of said internet and also the performance of my game otherwise, I might be swapping back over to hardcore. And as you can tell from the fact that I've got a bunch of 4 links and I'm leveling a character here, I have indeed done that swap, albeit with a few caveats. So at the very start of this league, for those who've been keeping track the entire league long, I did start in hardcore solo self-found for a couple of days and then decided to swap to softcore because my internet service provider were, well, they were pretty much on fire and being a bunch of jerks about it, and my game performance wasn't great. So I played in softcore for a while, and I've now made the swap back to hardcore trade, but I did transfer the things that in the course of those first few days I had managed to get in solo self-found hardcore. So I've got a little pile of currency here to work with, some of which I've already spent on a helmet for the build with a lightning trap enchant. And I do have some maps and such, as I had progressed into early red maps on the previous run. So that means I have a bunch of Atlas points to spend, and I have been building out my tree. I'm not entirely sure where I want all my points to go yet, so some of them are still floating. Please don't let that bother you. It's okay. I'll find a place to spend them soon. And yeah, what I'm going to be playing here as my sort of like pseudo starter, technically not starter because I started in solo self-found, but pseudo starter into Trade League is a Lightning Trap Saboteur. I really like Lightning Trap. It's been a while since I've played it, and I want to try another take on Alternate Ailment Trapper, which is something I've played in the past. I played a Ice Trap Alternate Ailment Trapper before using the Blood Magic Helmet, Malachi's Awakening. I was about to say Simula, but that's the unupgraded one, which I guess just doesn't exist in the game anymore since the prophecy change. But yeah, Malachi's Awakening, which gives you a whole ton of flat damage from every elemental type to spells on the condition that you have no life reserve, and also gives you blood magic. And then you would use the new Eternal Blessing support to get Zealotry and have a super powerful Zealotry alongside the helmet. And it's really potent, and the reason you want all 3 Ele types is so that you can access Scorch, Brittle, and Sapped all together in the same build. But the way I'm going to leverage alternate ailments on this build is actually going to be through conversion. I'm going to run a single Call of the Brotherhood to roughly 50-50 convert my lightning and cold damage so that I'm capping both Brittle and Sap relatively easily. And then I'm going to aim to get flat fire dispels on my weapon, on a helmet implicit with the new implicit modifiers, and on an Abyss Jewel in the belt, and, you know, maybe a couple other places if I can find it. That's probably going to be wherever I get flat fire. And through that, I will get some amount of Scorch, but probably not going to cap it, and that's perfectly fine. Scorch is kind of the least important one to cap, as Brittle is better damage scaling. Base crit is just kind of insane. And Sap is obviously pretty darn important in hardcore. The other thing we're going to be doing is using a alternate quality version of Lightning Trap that has Projectiles Return, which is should be a similar phrase to people who've been watching the YouTube channel this league, as I played a Frostbolt build with returning projectiles as my second build back in softcore, and I really liked that mechanic, and it's part of why I'm going for this build, because I want to try returning Proj again on maybe a build that's going to be a little more well-rounded. And you not have to deal with long cast times in self-cast as well, as we already have some pretty decent trap throwing speed. I like using charge traps even while leveling. It's just a very nice link. I actually don't even have multi-trap right now, or swift assembly, or cluster traps. I just have charge traps and a bunch of trap throwing speed on the tree. I'm throwing a single trap at a time, but I throw them quick. And to me, that feels much better to level with than any of the cluster or multi setups or anything like that, though I probably will be using cluster traps in the end game. There's a whole planned path of building for this character that will be linked in the description below. It should have 2 gear sets, one early gear set and one later gear set. Some of the things that I want are a little hard to get in hardcore trade. The alternate quality gem is, I think, like 3x right now, so I'm not going to have that immediately. And a well-rolled ashes is similarly priced, like 3.5 to 4 exalts. So we're going to have to grind early maps a little bit to get some of that stuff together, but I do have a 6-link base sitting around from when I was playing in solo self-found, and so we should be able to get into early maps relatively easily. Yeah, so that's the plan. I'm really looking forward to progressing through the Atlas again. I've swapped back to hardcore for a number of reasons. I mean, I led the video with my internet service provider being better and the game performing well, and those are the main reasons. Like, that's the biggest thing that pushed me to softcore. But the other thing is I was just getting a little bit bored of softcore endgame. And I don't mean to say this to like disparage anyone. However you like to play the build, however you like to play the game is the correct way to play the game for you. It's a video game, have fun with it. But for me, I find that the endgame of softcore is a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for here? It doesn't really engage me nearly as much because I don't feel like there's nearly as much progression on rerolls. So on a League starter build, it's really fun because you can't just like jump up to the highest tier of content right away, obviously. You need to progress your way there by running, you know, T1 maps all the way through to T16, then getting the bosses from your high tier maps, and then running those and getting all your little bits of progression as you go. But once you have all of that unlocked, and you have a map tab with a bunch of maps in it, and you have some Shaper and Elder Guardians, you have, you know, all these keys to content that is very, very endgame focused. When you go to re-roll a new build, once you have a basic gear set together for that build and you're like level 80 something, if it's a decently put together build, there's nothing to stop you just going, boom, I'm in T16 maps now. Because the occasional death is really going to be made up for by the extremely rapid amount of XP gain that you'll get at that higher tier of content if you're clearing at any sort of decent pace. And that kind of pulls the legs out from under the game for me. I really like that slower progression through the lower tier maps and then the mid tier maps and the higher tier maps, and having each bit of power that you gain as you go through levels or small gear upgrades feel really, really meaningful. And it just simply doesn't to me in softcore trade when, like, I could just jump to the highest tier content and take the occasional death and suck it up and just, I don't know, I feel no motivation to improve gear past the point of having basic mapping gear. Both the Frostbolt build and the Zombie Explosion build kind of suffered from that, where like I put together a set of gear on reaching maps with them, and I barely changed it after that all the way up to tier 15 and 16 maps, even though I was occasionally dying or occasionally struggling with damage, just because like I felt like I could just go in another portal, you know? I could just use my next portal as the way of completing the content rather than having to try and actually improve the build at all. So, and again, that is purely subjective. I'm not really trying to rag on softcore players or people who prefer that playstyle. It is obviously the vastly preferred playstyle. Most of the players in the game play it. It's a good game, even softcore. It's a good game either way. That's just where my brain is at. That's why I was starting to get bored, and a large part of why I made the swap. So, I'm really looking forward to the progression on this build. It should be a lot of fun. Like I said, I have a few things set aside for it, but I am pretty broke outside of like 2 lucky Exalted drops that I had, and those are both probably immediately going to go into buying my alt quality as soon as one comes online, so those will be gone quick enough. Until next time, I bid you all adieu. I hope you enjoyed the video. And I hope you're having an excellent time, whatever league and mode you're playing the game in, be it solo self-found trade, softcore, hardcore, whatever. It's a fun video game. There's no real wrong way to play it. Hope you're enjoying Path of Exile, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Bye-bye.